Most people wake up and reach for the same foods every morning without realizing those choices are silently draining their energy and packing on unwanted weight. If you've ever felt sluggish after breakfast or found yourself hungry again just 2 hours later, it's not your fault. It's the breakfast myths you've been taught to believe. Today, I want to break down the mistakes millions of people make at breakfast that keep them tired, overweight, and frustrated, and show you how to finally turn breakfast into a fat-burning, energy-boosting tool. Most people grew up believing oatmeal is the gold standard for a healthy breakfast. You see it on commercials, doctors recommend it, food companies proudly stamp heart healthy on the box, and it's been pushed for decades as the ideal way to start your morning. But the problem is what's happening inside your body after you eat that seemingly innocent bowl of oats. When you take your first bite of oatmeal, even if it's plain, it doesn't stay as oats for long. Your body immediately starts breaking it down into glucose, which is sugar. That glucose enters your bloodstream quickly, raising your blood sugar levels. Now your body has a survival mechanism for this because sugar floating around in your blood is dangerous in large amounts. The pancreas releases insulin, the fat storage hormone, to drive that sugar into your cells. On the outside, you don't see this happening, but you feel it. At first, there's a burst of energy. You might even feel good for a short time, but then insulin does its job too well and blood sugar begins to drop. That drop is what leads to cravings, irritability, and fatigue. By 10 a.m., many people are looking for another snack, another cup of coffee, or even more sugar just to keep going. And it's not because they're weak or lack willpower. It's because their breakfast set them up for a crash. The body is on this roller coaster of glucose spikes and dips, and every dip triggers the brain to want quick energy again. The easiest source of that quick energy, more carbs, more sugar, more cravings. Now, think about the marketing around oatmeal. You've been told it's heart-healthy whole grains. But let's look at that claim for a moment. That stamp of approval often comes from large organizations funded by the very companies selling grains. And when they say heart healthy, what they really mean is it may lower cholesterol slightly in some people. But lowering cholesterol doesn't necessarily mean improving heart health. Meanwhile, the constant spike in insulin from eating oatmeal every day is actually driving inflammation, storing more fat around the belly, and making you hungrier. Let me paint a picture of 2 mornings. Imagine Sarah wakes up and starts her day with a steaming bowl of oatmeal topped with bananas and a drizzle of honey. It sounds wholesome, right? By 7:30 a.m., she feels satisfied, but around 9:45, she starts noticing her focus is fading. By 10:15, she's yawning, craving a muffin from the break room, and pouring herself another coffee just to keep her eyes open. By lunchtime, she's already tired, hungrier than she expected, and more likely to overeat. Now picture David. He starts his morning differently. Instead of oatmeal, he scrambles 3 eggs in butter and adds half an avocado on the side. At first, it seems heavier compared to Sarah's breakfast. But by 10 a.m., David's energy is steady. He's not reaching for sugar or caffeine. His brain is sharp, and he's still not thinking about food because protein and healthy fats activated his satiety hormones. He naturally goes longer without eating, and when lunch comes around, he makes a better decision because he's not in a crash and crave cycle. That difference is everything. It's the power of starting your day with foods that keep insulin stable instead of sending it on a roller coaster. The body doesn't need constant snacks when blood sugar is balanced. The brain doesn't beg for junk when the first meal of the day is built on protein and fats. What makes oatmeal especially tricky is that it's been ingrained into culture as a clean food. Parents feed it to kids, athletes use it as fuel, and it's often marketed as a weight loss food. But here's the irony for most people. It makes weight loss harder because insulin blocks fat burning. Every time you spike insulin, you shut off your body's ability to burn its own stored fat for fuel. And if you're starting your day that way, you're stuck in a cycle where your body always prefers sugar and never learns to burn fat efficiently. The truth is, oatmeal is not the only culprit. There are other common breakfast foods promoted as healthy that have the same effect. Orange juice, cereals, granola bars, even certain yogurts. They all flood your system with glucose first thing in the morning, and your body pays the price for hours afterward. Walk down the breakfast aisle at any grocery store and you'll see boxes of cereal with bright colors, smiling mascots, and bold health claims. Right next to them, you'll find granola bags labeled as natural, yogurts with fruit flavors that say low fat, and smoothies in bottles claiming to be packed with vitamins. All of them marketed as the perfect way to fuel your morning. But when you look past the labels and the marketing tricks, What you're really getting is a sugar bomb disguised as breakfast. Take a typical bowl of cereal. It might say whole grain on the box, but once it hits your mouth, your body doesn't treat it as anything special. Those crunchy flakes or sweet puffs are broken down into glucose quickly, just like candy. Then you add milk, which has its own natural sugar called lactose, and before you know it, you're starting your day with the equivalent of several spoonfuls of sugar. Granola, which many people think of as the healthier choice, can be even worse. A single cup of granola can pack more sugar than a candy bar, yet it's sold as something wholesome to sprinkle over yogurt. Flavored yogurts are another sneaky culprit. The label might highlight probiotics or calcium, but flip it over and check the sugar. Many single-serve flavored yogurts contain 15 to 20 grams of sugar. That's like eating 4 or 5 teaspoons before you even brush your teeth. Add a fruit on the bottom style, and you're essentially eating dessert for breakfast. Then there are smoothies, which sound like the healthiest option of all. A bottle that says it contains 2 servings of fruit might seem like a smart choice, but by blending and bottling that fruit, you've stripped out most of the fiber that slows down absorption. What's left is fructose and glucose hitting your bloodstream almost instantly, flooding your body just like soda would. When you start the morning this way, your blood sugar spikes fast. Your body scrambles to release insulin, and for a short while, you feel energetic, but that's borrowed energy. Within a couple of hours, the crash comes. You feel hungry again, you crave something sweet or starchy, and your brain struggles to stay focused. It becomes a cycle: spike, crash, crave, repeat. And it's all because breakfast set the tone with sugar instead of stability. Think of your body like a car. If you pour the wrong kind of fuel into it, the engine doesn't run smoothly. Candy for breakfast and cereal for breakfast may look different, but to your body, they're the same bad fuel. The engine sputters, stalls, and requires more fuel sooner than it should. But if you give the body slow-burning, stable fuel, like protein and healthy fats, it's like filling the car with premium gas that keeps it running smoothly for hours without constant stops at the gas station. The difference in energy is night and day. Imagine one person starting their morning with a bowl of cereal and orange juice. At first, they're alert, but by mid-morning, they're already yawning, sipping on their second coffee, and grabbing a granola bar just to push through until lunch. Now, imagine someone else starting the day with eggs cooked in olive oil, a handful of spinach, and maybe a little smoked salmon. By 10 a.m., their energy is steady, their brain is sharp, and they're not thinking about food because their body is running on stable blood sugar and even tapping into fat for energy. That person doesn't need snacks to survive the morning. The human body was never designed to run on sugar as its main fuel source, yet modern breakfast culture is built around it. These so-called healthy choices are no different than starting your day with dessert. The crash, the cravings, the extra fat storage around the belly, they're all symptoms of putting in the wrong fuel. A lot of people believe that eating a light breakfast is the secret to losing weight. They'll grab a slice of toast with jam, maybe a small piece of fruit, or even just a cup of coffee because it feels like less food means fewer calories. On the surface, it seems logical, but when protein and healthy fats are missing, what really happens is the opposite of what they want. Instead of speeding up metabolism and controlling hunger, they slow it down, set themselves up for cravings, and make weight loss harder than ever. Protein is one of the most powerful tools for managing appetite. When you eat protein, it triggers satiety hormones like peptide YY and GLP-1. These hormones send signals to your brain that you're full and satisfied. Without them, your brain never really gets the message that the meal was enough. That's why when someone eats just toast with jam, they're often hungry again in an hour or two. There's no protein to tell the brain, we've got what we need. No need to look for more food. Healthy fats play a completely different but equally important role. They provide sustained energy, the kind that lasts for hours. Fat slows down the absorption of glucose, keeping blood sugar stable instead of letting it spike and crash. This stability is what allows the body to tap into its own stored fat for energy, which is exactly what you want if fat burning is the goal. Without healthy fats, the body is constantly looking for quick fuel, which usually comes in the form of carbs and sugar. Let's put this into perspective with a real example. Imagine someone named Lisa. For years, Lisa believed that a light breakfast was best, so she would grab a slice of toast with jam and maybe an apple. She felt good for a short time, but by mid-morning, she was always starving. Her energy would dip, her mood would shift, and she'd start thinking about what snacks she could eat to keep going. Most days that meant a muffin, a granola bar, or another coffee loaded with cream and sugar. By lunchtime, Lisa often felt drained and was more likely to overeat because her hunger had been building for hours. She blamed herself, thinking she had no discipline, but the truth is her breakfast had set her up for failure. One day, Lisa decided to make a change. Instead of toast and jam, she scrambled 3 eggs in butter, added half an avocado on the side, and sprinkled a little sea salt over the top. At first, it felt heavier than what she was used to, but something surprising happened. By 10 a.m., she realized she wasn't hungry at all. Her focus was sharper, her mood was steady, and she didn't even think about snacks. When lunch came, she naturally ate less because she wasn't desperate to fill a void. Over time, Lisa noticed her cravings for sugar dropped dramatically, her energy improved throughout the day, and she started losing weight without obsessing over calories. That shift happened because she gave her body the right signals. Protein told her brain she was full, healthy fats gave her steady energy, and together they set her metabolism up to burn fat instead of constantly demanding more sugar. The very thing she thought would hold her back, a bigger, nutrient-dense breakfast, turned out to be the key to moving her forward. When you understand how protein and fat work in the body, it changes the way you look at food. It's not about eating less, it's about eating smarter. A breakfast built on protein and healthy fats creates freedom from cravings, freedom from constant snacking, and freedom from the cycle of energy crashes that most people accept as normal. For decades, we've been told that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and if you skip it, you'll slow down your metabolism or somehow damage your health. The food industry loves that message because it encourages people to eat more often, but the truth is very different. Your metabolism doesn't shut down if you delay breakfast. In fact, giving your body more time before your first meal can actually improve energy, sharpen focus, and make your body more efficient at burning fat. When you wake up in the morning, your body is already in a natural fasted state. You've gone several hours without food while sleeping, and your body is using that time to repair, reset, and clean up damaged cells. If you immediately eat a big carb-heavy breakfast the moment you get out of bed, you cut that process short and flood your system with glucose before your body has had a chance to finish burning fat. But if you wait a little longer before eating, you extend that fasting window, and something powerful happens. Your body improves insulin sensitivity, meaning it handles glucose better when you do eat. You also give yourself a chance to tap into stored fat for fuel instead of constantly relying on sugar. This is where the concept of metabolic flexibility comes in. A metabolically flexible body can easily switch between burning glucose when it's available and burning fat when it's not. That's the way humans are designed to function. But most people today are stuck in sugar burning mode because they're eating from the moment they wake up until right before they go to bed. The body never gets the signal to switch to fat burning, so cravings and energy crashes become the norm. Delaying breakfast, even by just an hour or two, helps retrain the body to burn fat again. A lot of people confuse habit with hunger in the morning. They wake up, head straight to the kitchen, and pour a bowl of cereal or make toast simply because they've done it for years. But true hunger is different. Real hunger builds gradually, and you feel it in your body, not just your head. Boredom, stress, or routine often drive people to eat when their body doesn't actually need food yet. The first few times you skip breakfast or push it later, you might feel uncomfortable, not because your body is starving, but because it's breaking a pattern. Think about someone named Mark. For years, Mark believed he had to eat breakfast right after waking up, so his mornings always started with toast, fruit, and coffee. By mid-morning, he was tired and reaching for snacks, and by lunchtime, he was already on his second or third coffee. Then he tried something new. He stopped eating immediately after waking. Instead, he drank water, maybe black coffee or tea, and pushed his first meal back to 10 or 11 a.m. At first, it felt strange, but within a few days, he noticed something incredible. His energy in the morning was steady, his mind was clear, and his cravings between meals started disappearing. He realized he wasn't truly hungry when he woke up. He was just following an old habit. By delaying his first meal, Mark gave his body the chance to burn fat in the morning. When he finally ate, his body responded better to the nutrients because his insulin sensitivity improved. Over time, he lost stubborn weight, felt more energized, and no longer needed snacks to make it through the day. All he did was change the timing of breakfast and trust his body's natural design. Coffee is one of the most popular ways to start the day. For many people, it feels almost impossible to function without that first cup. The smell, the warmth, the little boost of energy, it's comforting. But the way most people pair coffee with breakfast is the very reason they feel tired, anxious, and hungry just a couple of hours later. It's not the coffee itself that's the problem, it's what they combine it with. When you drink coffee, caffeine stimulates the release of cortisol, your stress hormone. Cortisol isn't necessarily bad, it's part of your body's natural rhythm and it helps wake you up in the morning. But cortisol also raises blood sugar. That's fine in small amounts, but now imagine you add a carb-heavy breakfast on top of that coffee, toast with jam, cereal, muffins, pancakes, or even oatmeal. Suddenly you've got caffeine raising cortisol, cortisol raising blood sugar, and then carbs flooding the system with glucose. It's like pouring gasoline on a fire. For a short while, you feel amazing. Your brain lights up, your energy feels unstoppable, and you think you're ready to crush the day. But this energy isn't stable, it's borrowed. Within a couple of hours, the crash comes. Blood sugar drops sharply, insulin has done its job, and now your brain is left desperate for another hit of energy. That's when mid-morning cravings show up. That's when you find yourself reaching for another cup of coffee, another snack, or something sweet to keep going. It feels like your body has betrayed you, but the truth is it's just responding to what you gave it. Coffee plus carbs is the perfect recipe for a roller coaster day. Spike, crash, crave, repeat. Over time, this pattern doesn't just drain energy, it keeps your body stuck in sugar burning mode and blocks fat burning. Now, let's compare that with someone who drinks coffee differently. Imagine two scenarios. Sarah wakes up and has a big cup of coffee with milk and sugar alongside her bagel with cream cheese. For the first hour, she's buzzing with energy, checking emails, feeling sharp. But by 10 a.m., her eyelids are heavy, she's pouring her second coffee, and she's already hungry for a snack. She thinks she needs more caffeine. But the truth is her breakfast created the crash. Then there's David. He decides to hold off on breakfast for a little while. He hydrates with water, maybe waits an hour or two, and then has his coffee black during a short fast. Without the carb-heavy meal, his blood sugar stays stable. He gets the mental focus from caffeine without the crash. Later, when he finally eats, he chooses a nutrient-dense meal like eggs, avocado, and spinach cooked in olive oil. When he drinks his second cup of coffee after that meal, the effect is completely different. His energy is sustained, his focus sharpens, and his body stays in fat-burning mode because the combination of protein and fat kept insulin stable. It's the same drink, the same coffee, beans, but the timing and pairing make all the difference. When you put coffee on top of sugar, your body feels like it's been thrown into chaos. When you put coffee alongside stable fuel or after fasting, it becomes a tool for focus, not a trigger for crashes. The vivid picture here is simple. Imagine your body as a campfire. Coffee by itself is like a gust of wind. It makes the fire glow brighter. But if you dump a bunch of dry paper on that fire, it flares up quickly and then burns out, leaving you with ashes and no fuel. That's what happens when you pair coffee with carbs. On the other hand, if you place steady logs on the fire, protein and healthy fats, the gust of wind makes the fire stronger and longer lasting. Same coffee, totally different outcome. After looking at all the common mistakes people make at breakfast, it's important to flip the script and see what happens when you actually build a meal that turns on your fat-burning switch instead of storing fat. The foods you choose in the morning can either trap you in a cycle of cravings and energy crashes, or give you stable energy, focus, and the ability to burn your own body fat as fuel. The difference comes down to the combination of protein, healthy fats, and low-carb vegetables. Protein is the foundation because it activates the satiety hormones that tell your brain you're full and satisfied. Without it, you're hungry again in no time. Healthy fats are the steady fuel, the logs on the fire that burn for hours instead of minutes. They slow down digestion, keep blood sugar stable, and help the body tap into its own fat stores. Low-carb vegetables provide fiber, micronutrients, and volume without spiking glucose. Together, this trio creates a metabolic environment where insulin stays low, fat burning stays active, and your energy doesn't crash. Think of it like flipping a switch inside your body. When you eat a breakfast of cereal, toast, or oatmeal, you flip on the sugar-burning switch. Insulin rises, fat burning shuts off, and you're locked into a cycle of needing more carbs all day. But when you start your morning with protein, fats, and veggies, you flip on the fat-burning switch. Now your body can use both the food you just ate and the fat stored on your body for steady energy. That's metabolic flexibility, and it changes everything. Here's a practical example of what this looks like on a plate. Imagine cooking 2 or 3 eggs in olive oil, adding a handful of spinach to saute, and then topping it with slices of smoked salmon and maybe half an avocado on the side. That meal is packed with protein from the eggs and salmon, healthy fats from the olive oil and avocado, and nutrients from the spinach. It's rich, satisfying, and nutrient-dense without being heavy. Most importantly, it doesn't spike your blood sugar. By the time you finish, your body is primed to stay in fat-burning mode for hours. Now, compare that with a person who starts their day with a bowl of cereal and orange juice. They get a quick burst of energy followed by a crash and cravings. By 10 a.m., they're already thinking about their next snack. But the person who ate the eggs, salmon, spinach, and avocado feels steady, focused, and not even hungry until much later. They're not battling cravings, they're not thinking about food constantly, and they're not dependent on caffeine to keep going. Their body is running on stable energy because insulin never spiked out of control. The shift in how you feel is dramatic. People who make this change often report that their brain feels sharper, their mood is more stable, and they naturally eat less throughout the day without forcing it. That's because the body is finally aligned with its natural design. Instead of being locked into sugar dependency, it's free to tap into stored fat as fuel. When you realize how much control you have simply by changing what you eat in the morning, breakfast stops being a chore or a routine and becomes a tool. It's no longer about eating something quick just to get by. It's about making a choice that sets the tone for the entire day. A fat-burning breakfast isn't about restriction or deprivation. It's about freedom from constant hunger, freedom from energy crashes, and freedom from the endless cycle of cravings that most people assume is normal.